you have a massive opportunity to really put fear back in the conference.
Wildcats, we're coming for you this Saturday at 2:30 p.m. at Snyder Family Stadium. We're gonna put your season 6 feet under.
Rest in peace. These costumes were a great idea.
They're so good, man. This is a drink mixer.
Oh.
Texas Tech is 7-1 after pitching their first conference shutout since 2005. This week they'll head to Manhattan, Kansas to take on the 4-4 Kansas State Wildcats. After a dreadful start to the season, the Wildcats have scratched and clawed their way back to a .500 record. That includes back-to-back wins over TCU then Kansas last weekend, scoring over 40 points in both games. The offense is led by quarterback Avery Johnson. This season he's thrown for 1,792 yards and rushed for 255 more, while scoring 20 total touchdowns. His main targets are wide receivers Jace Brown and Jerron Tibbs, who both have over 30 catches this season, while also using tight end Garrett Oakley effectively with 25 receptions. The Cats' rushing attack will be without Dylan Edwards again. That means Joe Jackson should get the lion's share of carries this weekend. A returning name for the Red Raiders offense this week will be quarterback Behren Morton. It couldn't come in a better time either, with backup Will Hammond tearing his ACL against Oklahoma State. He'll miss the remainder of the season. Morton's return will come against a defense that has been excellent at forcing turnovers. In Big 12 play, they've come away with 7 interceptions and recovered 7 fumbles. That leads the league. K-State's biggest strength on defense is arguably their linebackers. Austin Romaine and Desmond Purnell are their tackle leaders, with Purnell also having 2 interceptions and a forced fumble. Speaking of great linebackers, Jacob Rodriguez keeps adding to his own Red Raider lore. Last week against the Pokes, he forced his 5th fumble of the season, ripping the ball away from an OSU running back and taking it 69 yards to the house. In the rest of the conference, Houston is now 7-1 after a massive win at Arizona State. They'll host West Virginia on Saturday. The Sun Devils will look to bounce back at Iowa State. The Cyclones have dropped 3 straight. Then there's the 17th ranked Cincinnati Bearcats, still undefeated in conference play. They're at 24th ranked Utah. For Texas Tech, they're trying to stop an 8-game losing streak to Kansas State. They're also looking for a win in Manhattan for the first time since 2008.
A 42-0 win over Oklahoma State over the weekend. And Rob, I'll just start with this. I don't really care how bad the opponent is. It's just really hard to get shutouts. And there's a reason why you haven't had one in conference play since 2005. And newsflash, there's been some really, really bad teams in the conference in that 20-year span. So that was certainly awesome to see. The bad news coming out of the weekend, clearly Will Hammond done for the year. I do think, obviously, that's a big blow because you were going to need him as a backup. Mitch Griffis showed some nice things, though, so we'll get into him a little bit later in the show. But the best news this week is back from the dead. Behren Morton back in the lineup. Can he be a shot in the arm in the offense? We will discuss that today. But first, before we get into our 3 thoughts, what were your first thought, only thought, mini thoughts on Oklahoma State?
I don't really have much on Oklahoma State. I know we will get into our 3 thoughts in a second, but you did what you were supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Did what you were supposed to do, exactly what you needed to do. You erase the 26-point game and make it 2 13-point games, basically, on your season totals.
You're back on your average.
So you're back on the average. You're giving up 12.8 points per game in Big 12 play. That was my bold prediction, and I doubled down on the bold prediction. I think I got down to 14. So you're right on track there. You have some pretty tough offenses, I think, coming up. I think Kansas State is figuring some things out. But for Texas Tech this weekend, Clint, it's a massive game. And you look at the history of it, they've dominated this rivalry in the past 15 years. So that's important to get a win. But just on this season, to get back into that national, wow, Texas Tech is the team in the Big 12 kind of conversation, I think you need to go down and dominate Kansas State.
you have a massive opportunity to really put fear back in the conference. And I don't know if there's anything that you can do that might do that to BYU, because if you're them, right, you're 8-0, man.
Yeah.
You're 8-0, you're finding ways to win. But as far as the national eye, maybe the at-large eye, if you will, you've got some big-time opportunities past just trying to carve out a way to Arlington. All right. I don't know about you. I've got 3 thoughts. What's your first thought? I want you to go first.
First thought.
First thought.
The offense will be fine with Behren Morton. Mitch Griffis proved it. I think Will Hammond is just a different quarterback and has not been playing well as a starter. He has gotten a little bit happy feet kind of thing, where he knows he can run and he's been told he's a great runner, and that's his first or second option is to run. Whereas Mitch Griffis, his first, second, third option is to get the ball to the receivers. Mm-hmm. And I think you go back to that with Behren Morton, and I think his success proves that this offense is calling plays to get the ball down the field still. It just needs a quarterback that is willing to do it. And I think as good as Mitch Griffis was in a spurt against a bad defense, I think Behren Morton can do that against good defenses, and I don't know that Kansas State is that. Second thought. This rushing attack is worrisome currently.
Yes.
But I think they have opportunities to correct. What I mean by that is not only do I think that you have some opportunities against some defenses, not BYU, to be able to have success running the ball in the next couple of weeks, not BYU. I think that with Behren Morton at quarterback, he's going to be able to check into some plays and read a defense and get you in a better spot for success and maybe check out of some plays. Mm-hmm. And I also think you're going to have an emphasis on running the running backs and not the quarterback with Behren Morton returning, especially with the leg injury. Third thought. Jacob Rodriguez just makes plays.
He's a bully.
Flat out.
Love it.
I mean, him going into a pile where he knows the running back's going to get tackled regardless of if he makes a tackle or not, and to just go straight for the ball and to come out of a pile and run for a touchdown, he just makes plays.
You watch a lot of junior high football.
I do watch a lot of junior high football. A lot of times, those linebackers do that not in piles, and the running back runs off for a touchdown. Yeah. But sometimes it's what happens.
That reminded me of maybe even like Pop Warner, where
the old Badger grab.
You have one kid that is far and away the best player from either side, and he's probably playing quarterback on the other side too, which Jacob Rodriguez, and just bullies a smaller kid that they decided to give a carry. And to see that in Division I football was incredible, insane. And you know, at first when he's coming out of that pile, I couldn't tell at first glance if somebody else had, like Ben Roberts had held him up, and then he had stripped it, you know, from the side or from the back end, and then just seeing the replay that I've watched 100 times now because it's incredible, just meets him chest to chest and just says, "Thank you, I'll be taking that."
That's my ball.
Yeah, incredible. All right. First thought for me.
First thought.
You got to see 2 things that we both hoped you would at the start of the season in the same game. I already talked about the shutout. You thought, hey, this defense is good enough. You could absolutely pitch one of those this year. You could have earlier, obviously, if you weren't, you know, just putting in the subs for a lot of game time in the non-conference, but why would you do that? So you do get the shutout. The other that you got to see is Jacoby Williams have a special teams touchdown. 3rd kickoff return of the season, and he houses it.
And all 3 have been really good.
Yes, and that's something where if you look back, like, boy, how much better could you be? Yeah, if you had a running back you were planning on that gets injured, you can play the injury game there. But it is just kind of a glimpse of maybe what you'll get to see more next year, and maybe even more. It just seems like the whole reason they were taking him out of that equation is, hey, we don't really need to push this with just two somewhat kind of a little bit experienced running backs after having the first injury, and now it just seems like they're like, well, why would we not? He's making a difference there, and he's making plays. So that was awesome to see. Second thought. I keep running into more and more impressive ways to describe this defense. I know Oklahoma State's awful. I'm not going to try to hammer that, but you had a C+, maybe C+ offensive day, and you won 42-0. Again, one, that is how bad Oklahoma State is, but also that's how impressive you were on defense and also on special teams. That's crazy when you look at just how, especially in the middle portion of that game, I mean, you were pretty ineffective. 88 rushing yards, didn't really dominate at the line of scrimmage, which brings me to my third thought. If your offensive line has the same type of day, specifically in the run game against Kansas State or BYU, I'm not saying you'll lose those games, but it's going to make you completely one-dimensional.
Offensive line was bullied a bit at the point of attack against Oklahoma State, and you scored 28 offensively, but yeah, that was disheartening a little bit.
It was supposed to be, the bounce back week for everybody. Some did. I don't think some did. And for the offensive line, I thought it was an even more discouraging step from Arizona State. Now, I still think your offensive line has very talented players. Now you've had a little bit of dinged upness kind of go through, especially in the interior of the offensive line. But as many steps as you had taken forward by the time you'd finished the Kansas game, it feels like you've taken two back, and now you're trying to restart against a really good Kansas State front that you'll see this weekend. Now I'm ready to overreact, if you're ready to overreact.
I am ready.
Switch it up. I'll go first. You're the most talented team in the Big 12, but right now BYU's the best team. I might even make a case that Cincinnati is a better team than you are right now. I mean, they're playing better football. Now, this is in a week-by-week period, so this is the beauty of it. This goes where you have a big opportunity, just completely go like, oh, nope, yep, they look like the best team in the conference again. And I think you also have the ability to do that. But right now, my gut feeling is BYU is certainly the best team in the Big 12. They keep on winning in impressive ways. Both sides of the ball, you have cohesive play. And then Cincinnati's just looking better and better. And I think what's impressive about them is the defense is starting to really line up with the offense. And then the run game, I think, is a little bit undervalued in the conference. My second overreaction, TCU is an inflated 6-2 squad, and they may lose out.
I almost did that one.
I mean,
I went the other way, though, with someone else.
They were stagnant against West Virginia, and this is a West Virginia team that I think is better than Oklahoma State.
Did you watch the Big 12 highlights of that the Big 12 puts out as a 6-minute highlight reel?
No, I didn't see what they put out.
So the highlights, there was about 4 minutes of highlights from the first half.
Yeah.
Till about 2 minutes left in the first half. The next highlight was 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I went back and rewatched just.
And it was a West Virginia touchdown.
I went back and rewatched some of just like a YouTube compilation of the game, and I was just like, this is.
Yeah.
Speaking of regression, I mean they have Iowa State, they're at BYU, they're at Houston, they're home against Cincinnati. Losable. Depending on which Iowa State pops up, if it's the first three quarters from last week, Iowa State's going to win that game. And then I would take BYU, Houston, and Cincinnati clearly.
Yeah.
I mean, they could be 6-2 right now and end the season 6-6. Speaking of which, my third overreaction, Dave Aranda may be a dead man walking.
Okay, if UCF wins this weekend, he's getting fired this weekend. That was one of my predictions.
I don't think that's crazy, because that's where he's done such an amazing job at staying alive there with some disappointing seasons, and he's the most back and forth results coach in the league right now. And I think that for Baylor, and I'm not like calling for his job or anything like that. There's audible frustration over there in Waco, and now they've been able to hang their hat offensively, but losing to TCU was kind of almost final straw number one, and then again at Cincinnati having a 20-point performance. I'm with you. If they lose to UCF, I mean, they could lose out. They could lose out and be 4-8.
If they lose to UCF, they will lose out.
Yeah. So I don't know how much of an overreaction that is, and more maybe just the walking, talking expectation right now. I mean, if you ask Baylor fans, they would tell you he's for sure done.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Texas Tech wins in Manhattan by 21. And College Game Day comes to 2 Big 12 games in a row for the first time since 2017.
How about that? We've been, the collective, we have been sitting here like, hey, look, there's Big 10, SEC, Big 10, or whatever the run is.
Yeah.
And then finally they're like, all right. And then they go, I'm not saying it's the wrong choice. I think Cincinnati at Utah is obviously a massive game for the conference. It just didn't seem like that's the one that they would finally be like, all right, we'll go to a Big 12 game.
Well, they got to pick the window. It's the late window. A lot of people will watch that game. And then you're in a flex for either ABC or ESPN at 11 a.m. next weekend. Do you know how many SEC games have not been on ABC? How many ABC games have not been SEC?
Ooh, not many.
I don't know that there has been one. And so if you're on ABC next week, 6 million people are going to watch that game because that's generally what that time slot hits. Not that
I'm just trying to think through because I haven't been keeping
Not in the last
track,
several weeks.
Ooh, that's
Not in the last several weeks.
Interesting.
So that ABC game makes a huge difference. And you have to win this weekend to do it. I don't think you have to blow them out, but I think you can.
Mm-hmm.
And again, even before the SEC really took over ESPN, you hadn't gotten a bunch of... Now, I think 18 or 19, there was 3 Big 12 games that were on Game Day. But it was like Texas hosting LSU, and then another, like West Virginia hosting some other team that's not in the conference. TCU, Ohio State, maybe. And those were back-to-back.
Yeah.
And then there was like one more later on. So you had 3 or 4 in one year, but for Big 12 opponent versus Big 12 opponent for the first time since 2017, twice.
When Cincinnati, when they went to their initial playoff push in the 4-team playoff, I'm just trying to remember, were they ever featured on?
So Cincinnati UCF around that time was College Game Day.
Okay.
But it was either the week after or the week before they went to James Madison. So they were that's when they were still going to fun games.
Yeah, that's when they cared about college football and not one sect of it.
All right, second overreaction. Kansas State has not figured it out. They've just played bad teams. Or teams that are good matchups for them. I know you bristled at the Kansas thing right there, but...
No.
So let me go through it.
Okay.
First 4 games, they were 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
They played a fully healthy Iowa State in the rain there. Not there, but in
Ireland.
Dublin. Then they beat North Dakota 38-35. Then they lost to Army. Then they lost to Arizona.
Right.
Since that UCF game was 34-20, and that was a closer game, I thought, than 34-20 most of the time. They beat Baylor 35-34 and needed to come back 14 points down in the fourth quarter to do it. And then they just hammered TCU in what I thought was TCU's worst game I've seen them play in a long time.
I think that was the start of the
UCF
downhill
laid-
slide for TCU.
TCU laid an absolute egg in that game. It was their worst game. And I think Kansas State just kind of took advantage. And then Kansas turned the ball over 4 times.
See, that's where I think offensively, I 100% agree with you. I do not think they've played good defenses. Where I think that they have figured some things out a little bit more, or maybe it's not even figured things out. I just keep looking down and like, whose black hair is this? The defense has turned it up a notch and has been forcing turnovers, and I do think that they've done a good job of being active with their coverage and, like against Kansas, disguising some things and doing some things a little bit differently that Jalen Daniels, who's had a good year, looked like last year Jalen Daniels. And the same thing with TCU, and I don't think either of those offenses had a good game, but where I think Kansas State has taken clear steps to me is figuring out an identity. One, okay, well, we're just not an electric, high-powered offense like we thought we would be, but if we just let the defense take the charge, and what have they done? They've just forced a bunch of turnovers in all of those wins, then that's like, okay, that's the identity. And so, no, I don't think that they have taken at least huge strides offensively. I think they've just figured out the defense is the better unit. The defense needs to raise a little hell on the field. And we can have still a little bit of the, yeah, we'll let you beat yourself, but we also have to go take some things because our offense isn't good enough to counterbalance that. But for the most part, I agree with you.
My final overreaction. I don't know that if I 100% believe it. It's just an overreaction.
No, it's an overreaction.
My final overreaction is that Houston will go 10-2 at worst. They finish with West Virginia at home. They go to UCF. Then they play TCU at home and go to Waco, which could be with an interim. And by the way, Dave Aranda's already fired an assistant, which is what he does.
Before this game last week, looking at Houston, I said, if I were a Houston fan, I would be really disappointed if you saw anything less than 2-3, which would make them 8-4. And I'm starting to change and with you tick up my opinion if I were a Houston fan.
So on the pregame show, you nailed a game and I nailed a game.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Cincinnati Baylor would be an offensive shootout, and you nailed that Cincinnati was just going to dominate, and I thought they did.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Houston was going to go in there and punch Arizona State in the face. You thought Houston would cover, but Arizona State would still win.
Correct.
And I think both of those things happened. Now, Arizona State scored twice in the fourth quarter to make it more respectable, but that's 24-0 going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So I think you've had Cincinnati all year. I thought Houston was better than Utah early, and that still might be the case. Now, they don't play each other, so we don't get that head-to-head, but I think Houston is going to be in the mix for a Big 12 championship appearance.
Something that I was way wrong on is from the start of the season was I thought Houston would be a bottom tier team, but I specifically thought Connor Wegman would not work out, and he has.
100%.
And that's where I think the biggest credit to them goes because, yes, the defense has done a lot of similar things that they did last year, and there were some questions around that, but I mean Connor Wegman has 100% led that team to success, and it's been really impressive. And outside of you just dominating them, which again, that win looks better and better. By the way, 2 wins over current ranked opponents. I think Houston is right up there for me with BYU with the biggest surprise of the league. And BYU is probably a little bit different from person to person. I don't think anybody thought Houston would be, this close to the top of the conference, but here, like you said, there's a real shot that they are 11-1 and are on the outside looking in. They're the BYU or Colorado of last year.
Yeah, I think Houston's way more impressive than BYU because BYU was good last year, and they just had to replace a quarterback. I think Bear Bachmeier is certainly certainly an impressive guy. But I thought BYU would be 8-4, like as a kind of a floor kind of team.
I thought 8-4 was their ceiling because I thought the quarterback was going to be that big of a mess.
I'm very impressed that this defense is as good as it was last year for BYU. Maybe better.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that when we get to Players of the Year.
Of the week.
And I've got one right now. We'll start defensively with BYU. Clint Scott. I said it right before. Falatau.
Do it in the Paul Bearer voice.
Falatau Satuala. That helped. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
10 tackles and a pick 6.
Yeah.
And they had Rocco Becht in hell.
That game was, I think it is arguably more impressive how they won it than if they had just went out and had the same score, but it was just like they took a lead and then went back and forth. I mean, Iowa State in Ames had them in a hole.
Yeah.
And not only did they dig themselves out of, then they just started, at a certain point they just said, okay, enough is enough, and just ruined. I don't know if there was a theme that day for the Cyclones, Corn Day or whatever. They just ruined it in Ames.
Corn Day. Celebrate corn.
Yeah, and I'm with you. That's a good pick. For me, defensively, I said about week 5 I was going to stay away from picking players of the year, of the week, when they faced Oklahoma State. But I only meant offensively. Jacob Rodriguez. I mean, you've started the campaign for El Heisman, which is amazing. Joey McGuire is starting to push really hard for people to at least mention him, put him on a ballot. I think he is the best player in the Big 12, personally. And that's in a conference that has a lot of high draftable guys. He's the biggest defensive playmaker in the league. He forces his 5th fumble. That's tied for first in the nation, plus a couple of interceptions. But in the El Heisman push, if you want like a moment, if there was any sort of momentum that Oklahoma State had found at 21-0 on your side of the field, Will Hammond is, we don't know this at the time, but he's coming out of the game for what would be the rest of the game and the rest of the season. And just, it's flat in the stadium at this point. It really, like, there's no buzz. And then in instant momentum play, plus, just another double-digit tackle performance from him.
And a half.
Gosh. Dumb. All right, offensively, who's your player of the year?
I'm going to go to Utah of the week and pick Bird Ficklin, the freshman quarterback, who had 291 total yards, 3 touchdowns, in a spot that Utah absolutely needed to dominate to stay in the race, coming off a BYU loss. A lot of times you go off those emotional losses, get to the next week, and you just kind of like, oh, well, we lost, and that was our opportunity, and Cincinnati's next week, and we're looking at Cincinnati. It's our backup quarterback, and what does he do? He throws out a game even better than probably Dampier's best game this year. It doesn't look like a freshman really at all, and is an electric runner. Bird Ficklin with Jason Beck is going to be something special in the next couple of years.
I was looking at that going, and he's had a couple of quick looks and
he's
in-person
played
sets,
a lot. Yeah.
and I was like, he might be a better fit than what Devin Dampier is, which is a little scary.
Yeah.
And Colorado, it felt like they just gave up on the season right there.
They had so many guys out.
I know things have not gone their way. I know they have guys out, but that just...
Yeah.
It felt like there was a white flag from the get-go in that one. My offensive player of the year...
Of the week.
Avery Johnson. 4 touchdowns against Kansas. It wasn't... And this is something we'll get into here in just a minute. He had an Avery Johnson-type day when you look at the stats past the touchdowns. Because it was 11 of 17. It wasn't sling. And yes, it was ugly on the field as far as...
71-yard bomb.
It was ugly on the field because it was wet out there and it was sloppy. But still, 11 to 17, 231 yards, hit a couple big explosive plays, including that touchdown to Jace Brown. Just 6 carries for only 17 yards, but he was clean, he was efficient, he had some monster plays that absolutely changed that game. And I always add value to rivalry performances. And we don't have a lot of true rivalries in the Big 12. That is one of them there for the Sunflower Showdown. And Avery Johnson, for all the talk from one side there, had about as good of a game as you could ask from a quarterback, especially in those conditions. So, speaking of Avery Johnson, do you view him as a phenom? What have you thought of him this year?
I got to be careful here because no, I don't. But I do think he is a bit of a gamer. Mm-hmm. And those kind of quarterbacks do worry me. He's not overly accurate at 62% completion, but not bad.
It's funny, he'll make one throw where you go like, what was that? Just like not even close, not under pressure, under duress in any form or fashion. And then the next throw, he'll throw a dot.
He takes care of the ball.
Yeah.
In the air. He's only thrown 2 interceptions. He's only taken 6 sacks. He extends the pocket well, but will look to run as much as he can. Not designed. Not designed runs.
As much as his offensive coordinator will let him.
Not designed runs, but he can run if it's open. Now, I will say he does try to throw the ball. Mm-hmm. He is a guy that keeps his eyes downfield. 3.9 yards a carry. Now, a lot of that's because of the 6 sacks. A 31-yard long, but could easily be longer. And 5 touchdowns. So, has he been good this year? Yes. He's responsible for 22 touchdowns. Has he been better over the last 4 games? Yes. Does he worry me like he did 2 years ago when he came in and ran for 5-6 touchdowns against you? No. And mostly that's because it's Matt Wells and not Colin Klein.
Yeah.
So, do they, and this defense is much different. If it was last year's defense and you were going to Manhattan, this game would really worry me. Because I think they could get over the top of that defense. I think Jace Brown probably gets a long one against Texas Tech. Mm-hmm. But I'm not worried about any of their other receivers or their tight ends, really. So, do I think Avery Johnson is a good quarterback? Yes. Is he in the top? If we were drafting again today, would I take him in the top 5? No. Would I take him in the top 10 of the Big 12? I think it's close.
Yeah, I think he's closer to 10, but I think he's in there.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, because if, and I know this is hard because this was something that was talked about all off season, but if you washed away, what?
I was just looking at this wig.
I'm wearing a wig? I thought this was real. I couldn't have long hair because I would be way too sassy with it, like when I brush it out of my eyes. Like, think about this.
I'm sorry.
Think about this, Gerard Way. From Slash. Take it from me. If we washed away the preseason hype around Avery Johnson, would you view him differently? Because we heard about it, like he's, and you know, Big 12 Media Days, he was asked about this, like, look, I just want to make the right play. I think I've progressed as a passer. Kansas State was putting him up. They were ready for an Avery Johnson Heisman run. They were ready for an explosive offense. And instead, it's been a little bit of a self-hindered offense is how I would label it, because you're not letting him, for whatever reason, you're not letting him or you're not pushing him to add that extra dimension to the offense that is really, really dangerous.
I think that conversation is a year late. Because this offseason, at least you and I did not have Avery Johnson. We were not highly thought of at all.
No, agreed.
And I don't think nationally, really, or amongst Big 12 pundits, he was thought of highly. It was almost like he needed a bounce back year this year. Now, going into last year, all of that you just said, Heisman Trophy, he's going to have a big year. They booted Will Howard out to Ohio State because they thought that Avery Johnson was better. Maybe he had a better year last year, but he didn't improve to the level that they thought he would.
Maybe I bought too much into week one. It's an isolated Big 12 game in Ireland, and certainly on that broadcast, they talked about him like he was...
Well, was that McDonough or whoever it is?
Yeah, and I do think that there was some in the Big 12, and you had the, your mark thing at Big 12 days telling him, you need to be great or whatever he said. And so I do think it was there, but I do think, here, like you said, you and I don't think it was just you and I in the building. I think most people in the building doubted Avery Johnson to be special, not to be good, because he has been good. And that's the thing. I think if you take away all of that, he's had a good season, but it hasn't been. I don't know. I don't view it as he's been a guy that's gone out and won them many games, but he also hasn't been a guy that's gone out and lost them. It's like a game manager conversation around a guy that does have the talent to be way more than a game manager.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, I thought, okay, if they lose enough games, they will get out of that mindset, but they haven't.
Yeah. I think Avery Johnson, these trains are killing me. I think Avery Johnson as a game manager is a really good option to have at quarterback. If you're allowing him to use his feet and you're running the ball off the tackle and that kind of stuff with him. But what's more mind-boggling for the Kansas State offense to me is the underutilization of Jace Brown. Mm-hmm. He's got 15 catches in Big 12 play. And they're going for 20-plus a pop.
You had, double that and a little bit more through non-conference play?
And you also have 5 carries on the season for 106 yards and a touchdown. Now, one of those went for 75, but you don't get that 75 if you don't try it. So, he's got 36 catches and 15 in Big 12 play.
You know, something that hasn't helped them either, I think they put so much weight into having Dylan Edwards in the offense and take over that main back role. And by the way, I think Joe Jackson has done a really good job. And Edwards has played really just in 3 games. It's down for 4, right? Because he has the one punt return that he gets hurt on against Iowa State and then doesn't play in that game at all. But it's like they haven't adjusted and they haven't let their other playmakers pick up the slack like that, like Jace Brown. And when you look at some of the things that's been, if I were a Kansas State fan, disheartening about the offense, well, one, you're about to play by far the best defense you've seen all year long. You've played 4 top 66 statistical defenses. You've lost 3 of those games. And in one of those, the UCF game was the game that you have Dylan Edwards back and the best look that we've seen him all year, and he goes for over 150 and he's running all over the Knights. And you go, oh, okay, well, this Kansas State offense, if you can do this, is what they are and is really good. But without him, it's like I get if other teams, they're not the only team that would struggle if you lose a star, but they just haven't adjusted at all. And so then you look at the other defense that were top 66. It's Iowa State, it's Army, and it's Arizona.
And it's Iowa State when they were at their peak, health-wise. But, the first 4 games.
And that's scoring 21 twice and 17 in another game.
Yeah.
So, I look at this game and, one, if for some reason they just completely change the mindset, clearly this can't be the game that Avery Johnson, he's going to have to be Superman in this game.
Dylan Edwards is also not playing.
Yes, and that's why I bring that up, because he's going to have to be the man in this game. But I look at just like defensively for you, hey, Jacob Rodriguez, go be the man, right? Be what you've been all season long, really to the whole defense. Pollock, Balfour, Wisniewski, control Jace Brown, control Jerron Tibbs, and then to me, the most important part of this game, and it's, again, I'm bringing it up not worried about it, but I think that this could be another highlight game for David Bailey and Romello Height. Like, go be the brothers of destruction in this game and just, speed up Avery Johnson. And he hasn't turned the ball over, but if you speed him up, and especially offensively if you're doing your job and you get him in any sort of hole and you make it where he's having to throw a bunch, I mean, that is like nightmare city for this Kansas State offense.
I think if you can get an early lead on this defense, and I think the Kansas State defense is fine. Mm-hmm. They're a good Big 12 defense. I think if you can get an early lead, Kansas State has come back on bad defenses, but they're not built to come back on a defense like Texas Tech. Mm-hmm. You're not Baylor.
No.
If you score blank, you win this game.
So the way that I view it, I think if you have offensively, and this is what I want, by the way, with Behren Morton coming back, if you have a Houston-like game and you score 35, I feel great about that. I feel amazing.
I would 100% think you win a 35-point game. I would feel 95% at 31, 82% at 28, 75% at 24. Like, those are pretty good odds. I don't think you need to go score a bunch of points. And that's how the game is dictated, right? So I think with Behren Morton coming back, and I think the emphasis is going to be on keeping Behren Morton healthy, right? Yeah. Which means more Cam Dickey, which means some Terrence Carter, which means some easier deep shots with the outside receivers like you have been doing. It means a reliance on Coy Aiken in the short game, the quick game. This game, it's a lot like Houston, okay? Mm-hmm. I think Avery Johnson and Connor Wegman are very similar.
Yeah.
I think their running game and Houston's running game is very similar. I think their offensive tackles are better than Houston's offensive tackles. So it's not quite the mismatch that game was. But Stephon Johnson, Jace Brown, and the rest of their receivers kind of similar to what you have. So they might hit one to Jace Brown over the middle. Does Chapman Lewis get some more time there at the safety instead of Brendan Jordan? Yeah. Do you start seeing him? Has he worked himself back into practice and game shape? I don't know. I don't see Kansas State being a good matchup for Texas Tech if you can keep your offense ahead of the sticks. Mm-hmm. Now, if you get behind the sticks with penalties and otherwise, I'm a little bit more worried because I do think they have a solid pass rush, a couple of guys that can really get after the quarterback, and I do think they're opportunistic in a way, or have been more opportunistic. But this is a defense that's given up 24 a game. You're giving up 12. You're scoring 43 or 34 in Big 12 play, 35 in Big 12 play, 43 overall. It's just the numbers say that Texas Tech's going to win this game by 14.
And so, like, with Behren coming back, I think there's a lot of, and I think he absolutely can be just like this lightning strike to the offense. But I think that there's this want and hope from the fan base that he's going to come in and you're going to score 60 points on average the rest of the way out, right? Just like, I think the offense is going to be much, much better. I thought the best difference, and especially needs to happen in this game against Kansas State to get that result, Kansas State wants you to press. I mean, Kansas State wants you to always look for the big play. And what I thought Behren Morton did really well against Houston specifically, and what I thought he's done a good job of for the most part this year, and this is where Will Hammond I don't think has the skill set yet, and this has been a difference in the past couple of weeks, is yes, he'll take what the defense gives him. When he needs to check down, he'll check down. When he needs to, in an RPO, and it is, hey, that's a good spot to hand it off, he'll hand it off. And I think that will help the running game a little bit too. But I think the big thing for him is he knows when to have the patience to let a deep shot develop and when to when to press and when to be aggressive. And it felt like Hammond wasn't reading that. But I think that Behren Morton coming in and almost a patient Behren Morton, but still looking for, okay, there's our shot to Caleb Douglas right there. And then being accurate with it, that's how you beat this Kansas State team. And the secondary has had some woes. Their rush defense has been good. Obviously, they've turned over people a bunch in the Big 12. And that's where I think they have done a good job of just getting momentum and rolling, where they frustrate a quarterback. They frustrate a quarterback like Josh Hoover or like Jalen Daniels. They have a couple things not go their way, and then all of a sudden they're trying to make up for that last play. And I don't know what they have that has been so good with that in Big 12 of making quarterbacks fall for that trap. And also they forced some fumbles too. But I think that this is where, yeah, you want a guy who's going to come in and lead an explosive offense. To me, it's more the maturity of Behren Morton that I think is important in this game. Side note for Behren Morton, and this would almost lead into like, oh yeah, he needs to press. I think that this is a great shot for a legacy game for him. I mean, when you put in everything that is on the line from here on out, and has been all season long, but this is his last ride. And, past just your awful outcomes at Kansas State and all the stuff in recent memory, which, by the way, I don't think a lot of players really care about that. I think that's more for the fans. Because, what does David Bailey or Mello Height that have been here for a year care about that? But for the fans, and again, for the legacy, if Behren Morton goes in and just has a good game and a winning game, I think that is something that could add to his lore, especially if you accomplish a lot of the things by the end of the season that you thought you could and that you want to. Because Kansas State has been like a great compliment to their program, as they have been a pesky, annoying thorn in the side of some of the best teams over the past couple of decades. I mean, when you look at, if I say a team that's frustrated some of the best Oklahoma teams, the best Texas teams, even TCU in a year where they go to the playoff and almost knocks them out of that, Kansas State has been that program. And so now you have a chance to be, well, we overcame that as a top team in the conference.
Yeah, when you're starting to say stuff like he's the first quarterback to beat him since Patrick Mahomes, and he's the first quarterback to beat him in Manhattan since Graham Harrell, and you start saying he's the first quarterback to ever win a Big 12 championship or go to a Big 12 championship, all that stuff adds up. So absolutely this is a legacy game. Absolutely for Behren Morton. And I think it was really smart of the coaching staff. If he could have played against Arizona State, I really wanted him to. Because I think you win that game with Behren Morton. But to then say you're healthy enough, but we don't need you against Oklahoma State was really smart for the season. But it does hold back Behren Morton's kind of chase for some greatness here. Because you do have some all-time stuff you're chasing. And maybe you get an extra game at the end of the season to do that. But regular season-wise, this is a real opportunity. UCF is a real opportunity. West Virginia is a real opportunity. So, and then obviously for the legacy, BYU is just as a game, but I'm talking about stats-wise. I think you can pile it up. And again, I don't want Behren Morton to force it because I think they were forcing it at Utah early, and that was some of the struggle. Just take what comes to you, and you'll be fine. And I think a lot of come to him this weekend.
That was something else that I want this game to be Houston-esque, is because now this is him coming back from injury from 2.5 games, but that game bouncing back after leaving Utah early. Remember there was this discussion, hey, is he going to try too hard in this game and try to be Superman when he doesn't need, and he wasn't. Like, he did exactly what you wanted him to do in that Houston game. That's where I have confidence for him in Kansas State.
These Kansas State games, some of them have been blowouts, but in this streak, a lot of them have been close games. And more than Behren Morton, you just have needed a defense that can make one stop a lot of times. Or you needed an offense to not get a safety. Or you needed an offense to not throw the back-breaking pick six in Manhattan. Or just get one more stop. Right. And so I think this team as a whole is really built to win games like this, like a Kansas State, like a Utah, like a Houston. This is a team that's built to do it. And I think this game will go a lot like Utah, a lot like Houston, and I think you're right on there. I think 35-10 is an appropriate score for this game.
I remember a streak that was around for a while. It's a WrestleMania streak. The Undertaker
So you're saying David Bailey is Brock Lesnar?
couldn't be beat, and it took a beast incarnate to end it, and I think your defense is a beast incarnate.
The next big thing. You're going to take him to Suplex City, that's what you're saying.
And F5 defensively on the field.
So if that happens, I'll be Paul Bearer, and you'll be... No, I'll be Paul Heyman.
Paul Heyman.
And you'll be...
the other Paul.
Yeah.
I'll be Brock Lesnar.
And you'll be Brock
I can use
Lesnar.
these gloves again.
Yeah.
You want to give your score for this game now before we go to the Big 12? I actually haven't given my score yet at all, which is weird by this point.
42-13.
I'm going to go a little, hold it back just a little bit more. I'm going to go 31-16. And I do think a lot of teams would be smart to ugly it up against you. I think Arizona State did that wonderfully against you with a different quarterback. And I think that is the format to making this a game to me and to dragging this out. And I think Kansas State, in a lot of ways, is also built to do that. So I'm going to say 31-16. I think this will be close at the half, and then you'll pull away in the second half.
I like it. Ready for a Big 12 whip around? I think, Clint, there's two really big games in the Big 12. We've talked about them. And that is College Game Day, Cincinnati, Utah, and Texas Tech, Kansas State. I think those are massive games in the Big 12. We just talked about that Texas Tech, Kansas State game. I'm going to take Utah to beat Cincinnati. They're somehow favored by 9.5 right now. I think Cincinnati covers. That's a really disrespectful line, by the way.
I think Cincinnati covers as well. I kind of think this is going to be an ugly game. Like, I think this is going to be one a lot like what BYU versus Utah was, somewhere in the 20s.
Yeah, I can see that.
Cincy on the road.
Okay.
I'm going to go Cincy on the road. Yeah, not only covers, but wins this game.
All right, I'm going to go in order of importance to me and see if you agree.
Okay.
Okay? Now, you're probably not going to agree with all of these just based on everything, but Oklahoma State, Kansas is the least impressive.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Seriously, pair up Oklahoma State with anybody right now.
Up next would be Arizona, Colorado.
Yes,
That
agreed.
game just does not matter to me at all. Arizona needs to win that game to, I think, stay around the top 8, but they probably aren't. And I think the coaching is getting to them right now.
Mm-hmm.
Up next would be, and this is a weird one, but follow me, Arizona State, Iowa State.
This is the first one we differ on, but I'm guessing this is just going to be flipped.
I've got reasoning. Well, there's only one left.
Did you do UCF and Baylor?
Oh. Sorry, West Virginia, Houston next. West Virginia, Houston, then Iowa State, Arizona State.
Okay, and then...
I think the most interesting game this weekend is UCF Baylor.
Okay, so we differ in a couple different places.
Okay, I think the most interesting game this weekend. Okay, so let's go back. I think Kansas beats Oklahoma State 35-7.
Yeah.
I think Arizona State. Who's playing quarterback?
I think Sam Leavitt was expected to be out from what I saw.
I'll take Iowa State to beat Arizona State.
Yeah, I think so.
And probably cover.
Because even if
Jordan Tyson playing too?
Even if Leavitt's in, it doesn't seem like he'll be fully healthy. It doesn't seem like the week that you had with him. So, yeah, I agree.
And then Houston, similarly to what I was talking about with Texas Tech at the open of the show, this is an opportunity for them to say, hey, we are for real. Mm-hmm. This is a bad West Virginia team. We're going to prove it at home. The stadium needs to be full, Houston fans. And they need to look themselves in the face and say, we're a legitimate Big 12 contender, and we're going to beat West Virginia by 20.
We're going to tombstone them into the ground.
They need to pile drive West Virginia
and
make them rest in peace.
I think they will too, by the way.
I think so too. The most intriguing game to me in the Big 12 this weekend, beyond Texas Tech, Kansas State, and Utah, Cincinnati, is Baylor UCF. Because if UCF wins that game, or even keeps it close, and Mac is looking out at the empty stadium in Waco, and he's like, man, should we put tarps up or fire Dave Aranda? I think we should fire Dave Aranda. If UCF is close or wins that game, Dave Aranda will be fired this weekend.
If this was even the second test of that, this is kind of how we started the show with like overreactions. I think if this was the second test of that, it's like he's fine. I don't think he's on the hot side. But this is like the third time they've had this conversation. At a certain point, even though he's got a Big 12 championship, that seems like a decade ago, and you haven't built on that success at all. It doesn't seem like they're building. And the other thing that I think hurts Dave Aranda too is, what are you seeing in college football right now? If you're looking around,
open jobs.
a lot of open jobs, and so it's like, well, okay, if you're going to have your a chance at whatever your pick is for a 2-year window, it feels like you have triple the amount of interesting open jobs already. We haven't even gotten to the end of the season yet from what you have in a normal year. And no, I don't think that you'll be fighting for the same coaches with LSU or even Florida or Penn State, but you're looking around at Arkansas, you're looking around at Oklahoma State, and you're even looking around at UCLA. And I think in their minds, they're at least going, well, we're probably going after some similar guys there or some similar level coaches.
By the way, if Shill Wood gets caught up in a head coaching search, you know who should be the defensive coordinator next year at Texas Tech?
Dave Aranda. That would be so funny.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, the press conferences would be equally interesting, but in a different way.
You go all the way back to Dave Aranda's first year. He goes 2-7 in 2020. And everyone's like, yeah, but it's 2020. Then he goes 12-2 and wins the Big 12 championship and wins the Sugar Bowl. You're like, wow, great hire. Since then, they started preseason top 10, went 6-7, 3-9. They started so bad last year, beat Texas Tech, and then went on a 5-0 run.
How bad did they start?
And now they're 4-4.
Yeah.
Every single year, except for 2021, Dave Aranda at some point in the year has been on the hot seat. That's just not sustainable.
So what you're saying is, in more seasons than not, he's missed the mark. Callaway.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
No, I agree, and it's like how this is where I think this decision ultimately, or they pull that trigger because they've just gone so back and forth.
And
I hope they keep him. I hope let's another 4 years at least of this, just back and forth.
Are they treating him like Cliff?
Yeah.
Except he won a Big 12 championship in year 2, but you're in year 6.
All right, you've talked me into I had that one lower. You've talked me into it.
Okay.
I wasn't not interested in that game. Arizona State, if Levitt was in that one.
Oh, yeah. That's full strength both sides.
Just to
it's
see.
Way more exciting.
Yeah. Instead, it's like the dinged up red and gold teams over there. All right. You ready for a fan question of the week?
Yes.
You can ask us a fan question of the week. You can give it to my Twitter, send it to Rob's Twitter, to Double T973's Twitter, or below in the link. Make sure to like and subscribe.
Here, hold on. Let's do a thumbnail.
Wait, I gotta put the hat lower.
All right. There we go, Josh.
Don't edit that out, Josh, so people can watch how thumbnails made the professional way. Yeah, in the comments you can drop a question. This week's question really is pulled from directly after the game. I think maybe in the Double T97 through Coors Light post-game show where it was asked the first time, if Mitch Griffis was needed, how comfortable are you with him running the offense in the future?
Incredibly comfortable against UCF. Incredibly comfortable against West Virginia. I think you win both those games with Mitch Griffis. I'd be pretty worried if he was a starter against BYU. I mean, I'm worried with
tie ball game, third quarter.
Kansas State.
Takes over.
Kansas State.
Either.
I'm not going to answer that. I don't want that to happen. I'm not putting that in the universe, Clint.
All right. Just asking the question.
Not going to happen.
Sorry, Texter.
I'm really comfortable with Mitch Griffis because he's not going to play. How about that? Mm-hmm. He's going to play a lot against West Virginia.
I will say he came in and...
No, in all honesty...
It was encouraging. It was encouraging. It's just, it's going to be really tough to win if he is your... Especially for the entirety of a game. If he's Now, if you have a lead and he has to come in, can he hang on to a lead? 100%.
Yes.
100%.
Yep. In all honesty, I think Mitch Griffis fits... the mold of a quarterback that will throw the ball and throw it downfield, and I trust these wide receivers to go catch passes.
Mm-hmm. And I also think that will in turn help the run game.
Yeah.
But all right, that'll do it for this week. Next week we will be talking about that BYU matchup. Just a friendly reminder: remember, in the Big 12, wins aren't given. They're earned. Oh yeah! All right, Mickey.
That's how he sounds.